So here again, I'm just going to collapse and go in here and look at the jobs. And much like everything else, if I right-click and say create this job, it's going to run me through a wizard. So there I've got 6 steps that I need to complete. So again, simple, intuitive. I'm just stepping through here and answering questions. So here if I say we'll say this is the Java patch job. And I'm going to say next. So here I've got the critical ones. I'm saying security and not the full product list, but I only want Java. And so as I'm selecting it, that's going to be the only patches that it pulls into this particular job. So here again, we'd say next, and it's off to how I want to deploy, etc. So once we've done that, I'm going to hit cancel on this one. Then we end up with these patch jobs, and we can see quickly this is all security patches, all critical security patches for all products. And so the nice thing about that is when we have it go out and look for updates, and let's say a critical security patch was released for any of those products in my repository, it's added to this and deployed out to the device. Oftentimes what people will do is create the patch and then test it against some machines in the environment, make sure there are no issues, and then roll that out on a production level. So you can do it kind of either way. All right, so that's the patching. Let's head back here to the presentation. The reporting out of the box for each of those modules, you're going to have canned reports. It's literally just going in and activating them. I've run a few, so we'll look at those. If, though, you find that you need to create additional reports, as you would suspect, you can walk through the wizard and create that report. But again, out of the box, we take a look at this. I'm just going to go down to this reports hive. What you'll see here, again, kind of for each of those disciplines, several different out-of-the-box reports. I'm just, again, kind of cherry-pick a few of these. So here I've got an operating system breakdown, so I can see, I don't know, maybe 2, 4, 6 different OSs that we have out there, and then a breakdown and kind of in a chart. If I wanted to see that hardware summary list, I can see really quickly, and again, these are out of the box, the different manufacturers that we have deployed out there in my environment, again, really quickly. And I'll just choose one more here, virtualization executive summary. So it's showing me quickly my breakdown of virtual devices, which is 11% versus the physical devices. So 89, almost 90% of my environment is still physical. Okay, again, just a cherry pick of just a few of those out-of-the-box reports, but again, you can create additional ones if you need to do that. Okay, so one last thing here, the solution integrations. I kind of talked about this before, but if you have, let's say, Service Core in your environment, Remedy Force in your environment, what you're able to do is from those solutions converge into client management and do any of those functions. So I can, from a ticket, see the inventory for this device that we're entering the ticket against. If I need to do that remote control session, I'm going to be able to do it right from that ticket. If I need to see what services are running, I can do it right from that ticket. So I don't have to swivel out of my ITSM application and into some systems management application to resolve the issue. I can do it all from the ticket. Okay, so with that, Dick, do you have any questions that have come through?
Stacy, yes, thank you. Excellent job, by the way. Very comprehensive run-through. There's a question. I mentioned ADDM when we first got started, and there was actually a question that was asked, because the question here is, doesn't ADDM do the same thing? What is the difference? And by the way, we'll go for a couple more minutes, so if anybody has any other questions, feel free to use the Q&A box.
Yeah, so with ADDM, that is strictly agentless. So I can only do the discovery, and it's typically of my servers that are running my enterprise applications. So ADDM stands for Atrium Discovery and Dependency Mapping. So it's mapping my enterprise applications like, let's say, my SAP installation. I can see that I have some pieces of that application running on this server. I've got the database running on another server over here. Maybe I have a web piece that's running on yet another server. So I've got about 4 different servers that make up my SAP application. But to the business side, I've got that user, and all they know is that's my HR application. So now I need to map that business side of it to see what that underlying technology is. So it's mapping business applications. And again, it's not doing software delivery. It's not doing patch management. It's not doing that policy compliance where you're building up any of those compliance regulations and then being able to scan against that. It's doing a discovery and that dependency mapping. The topology that you see inside of client management is just from a machine level. It's not application. The only application really was my BCM agents that I have and how those are connected. But the ADDM has a whole different set of applications or products that it's able to map. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I think what's that saying? If you have an application that's gone haywire, what you can do is you can look at ADDM if you have that product, and you can figure out, is it the piece of hardware that it's on? Is it the software itself? And you can look just to see what all the dependencies are. So it'll help troubleshoot much faster then. Okay.
Yes.
But typically BMC suggests that you use ADDM more in the server environment and BCM more in a desktop environment, right?
Well, that's cool. The ADDM, yes, on that discovery, because it's looking at my enterprise applications, like that SAP, I mean, as an example. But yes, you're correct.
Okay. One other question I wanted to ask: you showed this My Apps, and is that priced separately, or is that included?
I believe that's included. Okay. Yes.
Okay, and is that integrated with the service catalog? In other words, it looked really cool. If somebody just wants to order one of these and one of those, they can just go to this portal, and your department gets billed for it. Is that how it works?
Yeah. So with the My Apps, when I'm building up that application, I can opt to advertise that, or I can opt to kind of push it on them. And if when I'm building it up, I advertise, then it's going to stick it in that My Apps catalog, so that then they can go out there and see it and pull it down for the installation.
Okay, I like that. I mean that shows real value. And then the last question, because we're just about at the top of the hour here. Okay. How much care and feeding does this take if you're an administrator? For example, I've heard people tell me, well, I do packages. My job as an administrator, I build packages. Is that something that takes a lot of time to do? Or I guess that's not a very simple question, but is there any thought that you have about that, or any suggestions?
And it probably depends on the size of the IT organization. So if it's a small company, they're going to have to do it all. So they're going to have to be in here and doing the patch management. They're going to have to do it for, company-wide. They're going to have to do the software deployment. So, yes, they're going to have to then get the packages. They're going to have to package it and then do the testing and then ultimately deploy it or make it available in My Apps. But if a company is larger, let's say like Subway, they may have then different departments that are only responsible for software deployment. And then I have another set of people or technicians that are responsible for patch management. And then I have another set of technicians that are doing the policy piece of it, that compliance. So it almost depends on the size of the staff, if they're going to be responsible for everything or just a subset of what's in client management.
Okay. So in other words, there's a little bit of work, but you're really it's a time saver when you look at the work that would have to be done without the package.
Exactly. Okay. And your example, that story that you mentioned earlier, was kind of spot on, because I'm having to kind of physically do it, and it's taking me weeks and months versus 2 days. Right. And then we're done with it.
Okay.
Yeah.